Welcome everyone to week 3 of movement building from home. So we did put these calls together in response to the COVID crisis. So we want to bring you all together for some peer-to-peer learning to sustain your activism and your movement building work in these difficult and uncertain times. So the past couple of weeks, we focused on online meetings, practicing community care online. This week we'll be talking about self-care or personal ecology. And then next week will be community management. Sorry, I forgot that I was saying all that, so I had to try to remind myself what all these calls are for. But welcome to the call. With that, I'll pass it to Chad.
Hey, thank you. And we are just here for our quick community participation guidelines reminder now. We've come together to be respectful and honest, inclusive and accommodating, appreciative and open to learning from everybody else here. We do not attack, demean, disrupt, harass, or threaten others, or encourage any such behavior. If you're interested in seeing the full Mozilla community participation guidelines, you can find them near the bottom of what I imagine is now page 2, somewhere around line 75. And if you have an issue or like to discuss something, you have something to report, please don't hesitate to contact either me or Abby. Our emails are also right there in the document. Abby, do you want to share today's goals?
For sure. Oh, good. I was just going to say, please add a link to Schwarzenegger's Lulu's birthday video. I want to also see this and have my mood lifted. So thanks everyone for filling in that check-in. The goals for today, it's again to check in with our community, hold space to listen to each other. We want to be learning from you and just hearing how you're doing. We will be, another goal is to understand how personal ecology helps us remain engaged in the work, and also to share needs and suggestions for self-care as part of our work to sustain communities.
Awesome.
Chat.
And to begin that, we're going to go ahead and start with some silent documenting today about personal ecology. And we thought we'd begin with this definition. So personal ecology, what does it mean? To maintain balance, pacing, and efficiency to sustain our energy over a lifetime. And again, this is something that we borrowed from the Rockwood Leadership Institute's Art of Leadership program. It's a training Abby and I went through some years ago, but it's really stuck with us, especially in areas like this. So we're going to take about 10 minutes split between silent documenting, pardon me, and then sharing to put down our thoughts, plus one of the things that really seem powerful to us, ask those kind of like gentle questions to help people unpack their ideas more and clarify things for us. And we have several prompts today, and there's no need or pressure to respond to all of them, so it's kind of pick and choose. I'm just going to say them out loud and see if you have questions, and then we'll begin. First one is, what are some common things that cause us not to be centered, out of balance, stressed out right now and then before times? Another question, just what comes to mind for you when you hear that phrase, personal ecology? Following that up, is there anything that stands out to you in the definition that we've shared? Another question asks, if you feel comfortable sharing, have you ever experienced burnout? What were the impacts of that like? And what helped you recover? And then our final question for this portion of the call is, what would you need to continue sustaining yourself and your activism and your organizing for like another 10 weeks? What about for 10 months or 10 years? What are the things that help restore you, keep you engaged with this work? So we'll do about 5 to 6 minutes of silent documenting, review, plus wondering and questioning, and we'll see if folks would like to share anything out loud and lift anything up for discussion. I'll start the timer now unless there are questions. Friends who just joined us, we're at item 4, around the middle of page 3. Once you finish the roll call and check-in, and we are silent documenting about personal ecology, the idea of maintaining balance, pacing, and efficiency to sustain our energy over our lifetime.
I'm having a little trouble with typing on it because people are liking what I'm typing and cutting it off. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, that's one
So
of the challenges of
yeah.
sharing our insights in community here. It's a good problem to have. Thank you for persevering. If you've shared your initial thoughts, now's a great time to go ahead and scan and kind of see what seems especially powerful to you. It's a +1. Things that really engage you, you might ask questions about. About a minute and a half left to do that. Okay, why don't we go on typing, slowing down. There's a lot of stuff happening in kind of the middle two questions right now and +1ing. But going through and kind of looking at some of the things that have either shown up as trends or things that seem really important that you'd like to draw attention to. Would anyone like to share anything that they've put down out loud or to lift up something somebody else wrote as especially important to them? Yeah, please. Oscar, is your hand up?
Oh, no, sorry. I was just leaning on something.
Oh, no problem. The background made it hard to tell.
Yeah, sorry. There's a
No
cupboard
apologies.
I'm leaning on.
It's a beautiful mountain you're leaning on there.
Yeah, that's Swiss Alps.
Ooh, photo editors. Well, yes, we'll get to that in the chat. Here, there's a lot of +1s around the items around uncertainty, not knowing where to begin, unclear asks. So it seems like, specificity of kind of like the work and what we're asking ourselves to do and others to do seems especially important right now. Stress, overabundance of information, managing those flows. Yeah, things can feel very overwhelming. All of those things are some of the common things that are especially stressful right now under these conditions and other times as well. Personal ecology, I just love this one. Weighing the energy costs of my personal ecosystem, the costs and benefits of particular activities, making sure connections with others are also healthy and sustainable. This is a great turn of phrase. Whoever shared that, would you like to explain any more there?
Hi, Chad. So it's kind of, I like this question because I'm an ecologist by training. In particular, I'm a disease ecologist. So like thinking about parasites and hosts and everything. And, sometimes ecologists, I think we get annoyed when people like co-opt, ecology to like, we feel like maybe they like add flourishes to it or like deep ecology or, well, that's a different story. Anyway, but yeah, you know, we're a system within a greater system, and within us are other systems that we have to take care of. And you have to take care of the mental health system and the, you know, gut system. And I think of this too in terms of ecology when you learn about energy flow. So you have input from the sun, and then that goes into plants with photosynthesis, and it feeds something else, and you have a lot of inputs and outputs from your system. So just making sure, knowing that activities you choose to do will require an energy expenditure. So how are you sustaining yourself if you're doing these if you're making these energy expenditures, basically. Anyway, that was, I kind of went on a tangent there. My apologies.
That was great. Thank you. No, that was wonderful. Looking at what stands out for people in the definition, thinking of personal ecology as more holistic than a work-life balance. In fact, right, work and life are both part of personal ecology, I think. So balance is something to it, but also the nature of each. Some plus ones around this idea of pacing, deciding what to say yes to, what to say no to. I think that's especially, that seems to me especially aligned with the ecosystem point that we just discussed together. And then going on to, seems like a lot of common experiences around feeling the impacts of burnout and kind of reaching a wall there. Does anybody want to share anything there? Oscar, I really like that comment in the chat. If you want to put that underneath the bullet point above, that'd be fantastic. And then in terms of things that might sustain us for another 10 weeks, 10 months, 10 years, rituals, teams, other people, interpersonal relationships, glad coffee got a mention. Anything missing from that list, or anything anybody wants to extra plus one out loud about things that you think are necessary to continue and sustain kind of like your activism and organizing in the near and far future?
I think Carrie was going to share something earlier, maybe in the burnout section.
Yeah, let's go back.
Yeah, I was just my comment about pacing, and it feels connected to, well, it's really, for me, it's really connected to sustaining. And it's just been a really live question for me right now, because I'm seeing that when I say yes to things and I take on work and I've got something productive and tangible and concrete to do, that conveys all of these benefits back to me, the sense of accomplishment and the back and the being part of a team and just feeling like you're doing something. But at the same time, I just know these ebbs and flows of my energy. And yeah, feels a little bit like a, I don't know, paradox right now. I want to say yes to things because it gives me energy, but I'm not sure I can sustain that energy. So I know the things that usually sustain me, and I can put them in this list, but I have question marks about how much they will continue to sustain me as goes on and on.
It's a great way to put it. Paradox is a really, especially powerful term there, and hopefully we can explore some of those productively throughout the conversations today. But thank you for all these insights. Thank you for everyone who contributed to the conversation in the document and out loud here. Thank you for the heads up and for bringing that share there, Carrie and Serana earlier. I think it's time probably to go on and talk a little bit about maybe a bit of self-assessment for personal ecology right now. Abby, do you want to lead us through that?
Yeah, for sure. And to Carrie's comment, I think what sustains you changes over time, and what sustains you in a pandemic will look very different from what sustains you in your regular life. So I think it's why it's so important for us to be thinking about this right now and evaluating where we're at, especially seeing how like the timelines keep getting shifted for this, knowing that we'll have to maybe live like this for a while rather than just sprint for a couple of weeks. So I think that's a nice transition to this self-assessment piece. So we have a bunch of prompts here that I'm highlighting now in the next section. And it's just statements saying like, I have time to play in ways that refresh and renew me. I'm energized and ready to go at the start of the day. And what we're gonna have each of you do is just copy these questions or these statements, and you can put them in a new doc somewhere or your email or just somewhere private. And then we'll give you about 10 minutes just to think of these statements and then rate them 1 to 5. 1 is like, I never feel like this. This is never true for me. And 5 is, yes, this is always true for me. And you can answer it as if it's right now. So what you may have been a 5 like 2 months ago might be a 1 right now. So just answer it as if it's right now. We'll give you time to go through that. And once you've tallied up your score, think about things you want to continue, things to improve or increase, and things to try to work towards based on what you've read here. And what's nice about this list is you can revisit it and then score yourself again in a month and see if it's changed. See if your number has gone up or down, and maybe make some adjustments based on that. So no lecture today, but I'm gonna mute myself and give you all 10 minutes. Starting now. We're about halfway through. If you finished, just drop a note in chat, either just to me or to everyone. All right, we'll wait 2 more minutes. Then we'll move on to chat. I think most people are done by now. You're the guinea pig group going first in the week. So we may adjust things as we go on throughout the week, but I think I'll pass it off to Chad to talk to us about how to practice personal ecology.
All right, thank you. So again, when we talk about how to practice personal ecology here, it's meant to get all of us talking about this, not just to say that we know or that we are the experts. And as with community care, personal ecology has a long history in kind of that is something that can dive into outside of this call if you haven't yet already. The big idea that we'd like to talk about with personal ecology is this, and this is from Akaya Winwood, one of the Rockwood trainers we work with. You can't sustain a movement if you don't sustain yourself. We thought that was just a very simple, straightforward, and powerful way to make the argument for personal ecology. It is integral to the work right now. It's difficult to imagine things continuing in people-driven organizations and communities like ours without paying attention to this. Many folks are doing it in kind of some new ways, some building on old ways, some just continuing really strong practices from before. Personal ecology is sometimes also known as self-care, but personal ecology tends to have more of a holistic meaning, as noted above. It does require intent. This is something you have to engage with. It doesn't just happen. It involves care for yourself and others that you encourage to practice personal ecology. And personal, frequent self-assessment, but also support from other people. Checking in with yourself, checking in with others, asking others how you seem, if you want to make sure that despite my worry, despite my anxiety, I'm being as supportive of you as possible. Little check-ins like that. I think I'm managing it okay right now. Do you have any feedback for me? You can ask others for help here for sure. This is both strategic and just. Strategic in that as an integral part of the work, you really should plan for it. And just, as in kind of like justice, you should also plan for extending the opportunities to practice personal ecology, as far and as wide as you can in your community and for those around you, as well as for yourself. It can be very difficult to do that. There's a lot of systems at play here that try to prevent people from practicing adequate personal ecology. But all we can do to do this for ourselves, to model it for others, and to ensure that they can practice it is so important, always, especially right now. I used to think of personal ecology kind of like as an escape, like, oh, I had a very stressful day. Let me go and play a video game, do this, do that other thing. But it's a much more restorative process. And it gets involved with kind of everything, with all those energy cost decisions. And in fact, it's about work and life together in balance, but also the nature of each, I think. When we think about the dimensions of personal ecology, we think about allowing ourselves joy, allowing ourselves to have feelings, reactions, and mistakes, acknowledging the challenges we face, acknowledging the feelings that we have, sharing power and community care to ensure that others can practice self-care, knowing when we need to restore ourselves, knowing when we need to avoid burnout, and making sure to press pause in helpful ways at those moments. And to help with that, creating the processes, relationships, structures that help us check in with ourselves and then change our behavior accordingly. Frequent negotiation of work-life balance is part of this. Renegotiation of the overlap, renegotiation of the nature of each. I don't think of like taking a break from work necessarily as personal ecology or self-care anymore. I think about what am I doing at work? That's a huge piece of personal ecology for me. And then again, modeling this for others, ensuring others can practice it, making it part of your culture, making it part of your systems, right? There's one effort to be made in getting people to practice personal ecology and making sure they can. There's another effort to be made that this is just built into how we operate together in our communities. And the big question is really then, how can we help each other work towards sustainable personal ecology for ourselves and for those around us? And those ideas, the things that you discovered in the self-assessment, the responses to our silent documenting, let's take all of these things into our breakout rooms, which Abby will lead.
Awesome. Yeah, and I love this comment from Oscar in the chat. There are people who think that you're not doing enough unless you're stressed. That's a bit of our culture. You have to look like you're always busy and doing lots of stuff all the time, but you can only sustain that for so long. Some people can sustain that much longer, but it ends at some point. So it's a great thing to think about as we go into our breakout rooms. So back to our regular asks, please listen to each other. Thank each other for sharing your experience. Avoid judgment and solutioneering. Really just listen to people explaining what their personal ecology looks like right now. A common denominator of kindness. Only share what you feel comfortable with sharing. I know especially this week, talking about things like burnout can be really tough, so don't feel like you have to. And you can use that ask for help button if you need an assist. So you'll be going into your breakout rooms, introduce yourself to your new friends. You might be back in some rooms from people from the past. And yeah, talk about who you are, where you're from, what brings you here. And then the 3 prompts we have for this breakout room. One is, what does your balance look like right now? What is personal ecology like for you right now? What would the ideal balance look and feel like? And then what's one thing you want to bring to your community about personal ecology, or even to yourself with your own personal ecology? So those are the 3 prompts. One, what it looks like now, what your ideal balance would look like, and one thing that you could do. Does that make sense to everyone? Cool. Chad, how are the breakout rooms looking?
They're great. I'm going to open them up and pause the recording now. All right, welcome back from the breakout rooms, everyone. Thank you so much for engaging with each other there. We're going to go down now towards the bottom of page 7, top of page 8, for item 8, called One Powerful Next Step. So we've got about 10 minutes budget for this, but we'll take about 5 because we're a little bit over. But go ahead and share maybe one powerful next step you'll take for yourself or your community regarding personal ecology. Share what you're comfortable sharing. You don't have to go past that. But as you see things that you want to affirm, please +1 them. If you see things that you're especially curious about, or curious about people's approaches to something, ask those kind questions. But let's take 3 or 4 minutes, get some ideas down, scan through +1, and we'll see if anyone has anything to lift up out loud after just a few minutes here. Any questions? All right, share next step. Thank you. few more ideas are coming in. Great time to +1 things or ask some questions, share some supportive comments. And another minute or two, we'll see if anyone would like to vocalize anything, and then we'll go on. All right, just a few comments still happening now. Would anyone like to share anything out loud or share anything that they've noticed out loud?
This is Julie. Hi, everyone. I'll just say what something we talked about in the breakout room quite a bit with Philo and Jessica, which is being outside and also how with the weather being a bit nicer, you can maybe even get together with people physically and socially distance and just be outside while you connect with them. And that's been really nice for personal ecology and sustainability.
Thank you. Anyone else? We have time for another comment or two.
Yeah, I like this cycling to work thing in the just get outside and cycle around the block. I've heard people like walking to work. They'll just like walk around the block, come back inside.
Yeah. There's a lot here that's great in terms of like paying attention to the mind and heart, or paying attention to the body, whether it's particular exercise or getting outside or taking that break, taking that rest time. The infant me likes the steal this time comment very much, but it also reminds me like how important it is to approach this as something systemic and structural. And what if it was such that all of us didn't have to steal this time, right? Be very, very powerful as well. Thank you. These are beautiful. Folks are still commenting, still +1ing. Encourage you to do that. Probably better even than listening to us for sure. But we are going to go ahead to closing circle. I'm going to turn things over to Abby for that.
Awesome. Well, starting with reminders, help us make next week the best call yet. Next week's our last week together. So please fill out this form. We do make adjustments every week and try to adapt for what you need. Also, next week is the community management section where on Slack, a lot of people are interested in that one. So if you have specific topics you want us to cover, let us know in here too. Yeah, let us know how you want us to close this out. So, and also you can put in your own reminders if you have something you want people to take a look at, throw that in there. Shares and shout outs, a good time to thank any of your community members that are maybe helping you with personal ecology or helping you sustain your work, or thank your group members for a great chat. Requests for peer assist. This is a great place to ask questions from each other. I think we already covered a bit of the image editing software, but other things that people have, ask them here, or if you're promoting something, put that there. So we're already getting a nice question in there. So we'll make sure to review that. And resources. So we do have a bunch of resources. Like Chad said, we didn't invent personal ecology or self-care. There's been a lot of work done in this space over time. I want to highlight, I liked this one that's an infographic, self-care and sustaining activism. It's like 5 points and a pretty infographic for visual learners like myself. And I really like the point around acknowledging power differences. A lot of times we ignore that and it makes things a lot more difficult. So just acknowledging that makes a big difference. And and this one here, the self-assessment kit from Mozilla. If you want reference for those questions or you want to revisit the self-assessment, it's here, so you can bookmark that. And I copied the link that was shared above under the Please Add More section. So if you have your other resources or other things that have really helped you sort of stay balanced, please put that there. I think it's great to hear from all of you. So there's 5 ways to stay involved. We hit over 2,000 people on the MozFest community Slack, and we do have a movement building from home channel where we are putting a few things in there. We might make that more active soon. But yeah, say hi in both those channels in general, movement building from home. And then again, the survey. We're ending 3 minutes early so that you can sit and do the survey for a couple minutes.
Unless you need to get up and go outside for a moment or
It's
stretch.
true, yeah.
Do those things first, please.
It's very true.
But then do the survey.
Huge thanks everyone for showing up and just for this great discussion. And I think really insightful thoughts. Next week's community management, hope to see you all there. Chad, anything else?
Yeah, other Chad, it's payback for the 3 minutes I took from you last week. Absolutely it is. No, this is just another week of kind of beautiful and generous sharing. So thank you all. I hope that you have a chance to take care of yourself and help others think about taking care of themselves over the next week. We'll see you soon.
Cool. Chad and I will stick around a bit if you have any specific questions, but I think we'll end the recording and say bye to everyone here.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
All day.